Today, I'm gonna tell you one of the most terrifying and tragic stories that ever happened in my life. I still can't talk about it without tears, but maybe sharing it with you will make it a little easier. This is a story about how one find changed everything. It all started when my family moved into an old, abandoned house. It was supposed to be our fresh start, at least that's what my parents thought. The house looked creepy, peeling paint, crooked shutters, windows covered in dust. It stood on the edge of a forest, and even in broad daylight, the air around it felt heavy and gloomy. My parents were busy with renovations and everything else except us kids. So my younger brother Billy and I just explored everything around us. Billy was my best friend. He was only 8, but he always knew how to cheer me up with his silly jokes and contagious laughter. Even in that dark, scary house, he found ways to keep us both entertained. We played hide and seek in empty rooms and peeked into dusty corners where no one had been for years. But one day, we stumbled upon the basement. It was locked with a rusty lock, but time had done its job. The door gave in and opened, and we went down into that dark, cold place. The smell of dampness and dust was everywhere, but in the corner, I noticed it. An old doll, covered in dust. It had tangled dark hair, a shabby dress, and glass eyes. They seemed to be staring right at me. You know that feeling when a toy looks too alive? That's exactly how it was there. Why did I decide to take it? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe it seemed special to me. I picked it up and brought it upstairs, while Billy kept laughing, saying it was creepy. But I just brushed it off. Everything was fine for the first few days. The doll just sat on the shelf in my room. Sometimes Billy would ask about it, try to pick it up, but I always told him, "Don't touch it. It's too old, you'll break it." But then weird things started happening. The doll was never where I left it. At first I thought I was just forgetting. I would put the doll on the table, then suddenly it's on the chair. But one day, I found it on my bed, even though I knew for sure I had left it in another room. I asked Billy, "Did you touch it?" He shook his head. And then the dreams started. I dreamed the doll was talking to me, calling me by name. Its glassy eyes gleamed in the dark. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, feeling like someone was watching me. And then Billy changed. He got weird. Quiet. He used to laugh all the time, tell me everything. But now he would just sit across from the doll, whispering to it. When I asked what he was doing, he gave me this creepy little smile and said, "She told me a secret." His face was getting paler. He started complaining about headaches, getting weaker and weaker. Mom and Dad didn't notice anything, but I saw it. My brother was fading right in front of me. I knew it had to be the doll. There was something wrong with it. Something evil. I had to get rid of it. I took the doll, wrapped it up in an old blanket so I wouldn't have to see those horrible glass eyes, and tossed it into the dumpster behind the house. It was late, the yard was bathed in the dim glow of a streetlight, and every tiny noise made me jump. I threw the doll in, slammed the lid shut, and ran back inside. For the first time in days, I felt lighter. But not for long. When I walked into my room, the doll was lying on my bed. Right there. Like it had never left. Its glass eyes seemed almost amused, and the cracks on its face were even deeper. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. Fear. But I knew what I had to do. Fire. Fire destroys everything. That night, I built a bonfire in the yard. The wind howled, but I didn't care. I had to do this. I held the doll in my hands, its fabric dress already catching some of the heat. But when I threw it into the fire, something strange happened. The flames recoiled. I swear, the fire pulled back like it was afraid. The flames wouldn't touch the doll. I panicked. I grabbed it, trying to force it into the fire. That's when it happened. A surge of flames shot out, burning my hand. I screamed, dropping the doll, and ran to the washroom, splashing cold water on my skin. My palm was red, angry blisters already forming on my fingers. The pain was unbearable. When I finally turned back to the fire, the doll was gone. I spun around. And there it was. Sitting on my bed again, just watching me. The cracks on its face had deepened, like someone had slashed it with a knife. And now, it was smiling. I had one last option. I was gonna bury the damn thing. It was raining. Hard. But I didn't care. I grabbed the doll and ran into the woods. My flashlight barely lit the path, mud splashed with every step, and I kept slipping on the soaked ground. When I finally found the spot, I realized I forgot a shovel. I didn't have time to go back. I dropped to my knees and started digging. With my bare hands. Cold, wet dirt clung to my fingers, but I kept going. I didn't stop, even when my nails bent and snapped, even when my fingertips split open and bled into the mud. The ground was heavy, and the rain kept filling the hole with water, but I didn't care. I shoved the doll in, covered it with soil, and stomped it down with my feet. Tears mixed with rain as I stood there, breathless, drenched, shaking. It was over. Or so I thought. When I walked into my room, she was there, sitting on the chair, waiting for me. The cracks on her face had gotten deeper, and a thick, black liquid oozed from them, smelling rotten. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop myself from gagging. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a doll. And she was gonna get what she wanted. Billy was getting worse. It was like his little body was just wasting away right in front of me. His skin turned crazy pale, dark circles under his eyes. He didn't laugh anymore, didn't run around like before. Most of the time, he just stayed in his room. And his eyes, they looked empty, like he wasn't really seeing me, just staring through me. What scared me the most was how he was always with that doll. Holding it tight, whispering to it so softly I couldn't even make out the words. Even our parents finally noticed. They took him to doctors, but no one could explain what was happening. The doctors just shrugged, ran a bunch of tests, but nothing serious showed up. They said maybe it was stress, maybe some weird virus, but no medicine worked. My brother kept getting weaker, slipping away more and more every day. I didn't know what to do anymore. When he stopped getting out of bed completely, I called Grandma. She was the only one who might understand. She came the next day. For a long time, she just stood there, watching Billy, who was lying in bed, holding that damn doll in his arms. Then she pointed at it. "It's her," Grandma said. "Can't you see? That doll is taking his soul." I froze. Taking his soul? I whispered, my whole body going cold. She pulled me into a hug. "That's not just a doll, Maria," she said. "It's a curse. You have no idea how much evil can live inside something like this." My stomach twisted. I wanted to believe she was wrong, that it was just some old superstition. But deep down, I already knew. I had seen what that thing could do. "But what can I do?" My voice cracked as tears filled my eyes. "I tried to get rid of it. It keeps coming back. I burned it, buried it, it won't leave." Grandma took a deep breath, her face growing even more serious. "You have to take it somewhere it can't hurt anyone." A crypt. That's where it was supposed to be locked away forever. I swallowed hard. "But be careful. It won't let go of our Billy that easily." I turned back to my brother. He looked like a shadow of himself, barely breathing, his lips moving like he was still whispering to that thing, even in his sleep. I couldn't watch him fade away anymore. "I'll do it," I said, wiping my tears. I was making my way through the woods, gripping the doll so tight my fingers went numb. The trees whispered, roots snaked out, trying to grab my feet. Rain lashed against my face. And then, suddenly, the doll got heavier, like it was fighting back.
"You won't make it."
A voice whispered right in my ear. I froze. Spun around. Nothing. Just the dark, restless forest. I slipped, crashed to my knees. The doll fell, landing in the mud. Water seeped into its cracks, and for a second, I swear it breathed. Shaking, I grabbed it and pushed forward. Then I saw it, the crypt. Huge, dark, covered in moss. The door groaned as I shoved it open, and the second I stepped inside, it slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang. I walked up to the stone altar in the center. My hands trembled as I set the doll down. Its glassy eyes locked onto mine.
"This is the end for you."
And then, chaos. The crypt shook, walls groaning like they were alive. Symbols on the altar flared blood red. A furious, screeching voice filled the air.
"You really thought it would be that easy?"
The voice hissed, everywhere at once.
"I'm taking you with me."
The ground cracked beneath me, and thick, black sludge oozed up, wrapping around my legs. "Let me go!" I screamed, thrashing, but it pulled me down, cold and sticky like tar. And then I heard him. "Maria, don't give up." "Billy!" I clenched my jaw, fought with everything I had, and tore myself free. I bolted for the door. Behind me, the doll sat on the altar, cracks splitting wider. The same black sludge poured from its body.
"You won't save him."
It shrieked. I didn't stop running. I didn't look back. I made it deep into the woods before I let myself breathe. I did it. I won. I came home at dawn. The forest was behind me, the rain had stopped. I believed it was over. The house was silent, eerily still. Everything looked the same. I stepped into my brother's room. I whispered, "Billy." He was lying in bed, warm, breathing steadily. I sat beside him, tears of relief streaming down my face. He opened his eyes, and I pulled him into a hug. It was over. But then, something felt wrong. His body was too light, his skin too stiff. I pulled away and froze in horror. His face was porcelain, cracked. His eyes, glass, just like the doll's. "No!" My voice broke. I grabbed him, shook him, trying to wake him. But he didn't move. He just stared at me, silent and empty. The doll never left. It took him. From deep inside the house, a soft childlike laugh echoed. I froze. "She was